Welcome back. So in the previous video, we saw how to manually provision an agent on your local machine. Let's take this a step forward and provision an agent in Azure DevTest Labs. Now, if you haven't looked at Azure DevTest Labs, I will encourage you to go and check out a course on infrastructure as code up in the library on EDX. It talks everything to do with infrastructure, but specifically focuses on DevTest Labs. I'm going to jump right into the demo. Let's go into the Visual Studio Team Services. And within Visual Studio Team Services, you can see I've created a new queue and a new pool called DTL. Now I'm going to navigate into the Azure portal. If you don't have an Azure subscription, we'll sign up for a free one on azure.com. I'm going to go within DevTest Labs. And within DevTest Labs, I've already provisioned a lab, but if you don't have one, you can provision one using the add workflow here. I'm simply going to select an Azure DevTest Lab that I have pre-set up here, and then I'm going to click on the Add functionality. Now, the Add functionality presents me a list of images that are already available in the marketplace, and you'd be very pleased to know that there is an image available for Visual Studio 2017, both Enterprise as well as Community. I'm going to select the Visual Studio 2017 image here. And at this point, it wants me to specify a few details so that it can provision a new VM using this image. What I'm going to call this is, let's call this manual demo agent 01. And I can select the machine size. I'm going to stick with the basics. And then at this point, you have an option of adding artifacts. So if I click on the artifact section, I get a list of all the artifacts that are available in the DevTest Lab public repo. Again, you can attach your own repository here. So if you take a fork on the VSTS agent and customize it further, and you want to install that instead, then just attach a new artifact repository, and it will show that option here. I'm going to search for agent, and you can see the VSTS build agent shows up here. Let's look at the options that are available. It needs me to provide a few details for it to provision the VM, and on top of the VM, provision the agent. The details it needs are, what is the VSTS account name? Now, these are the information items that were specified when we were configuring the agent manually as well in the previous video. So I'm simply going to copy the name. And then I need to specify the personal access token. I've got one that I generated. And then I need to specify the name of an agent. I'm going to keep that as the name of the machine. And then I need to specify the pool. I'm going to call it DTL, a one that I've just created. And then I'm going to leave the rest of it as default so that it can use the network service account, so I don't need to specify a password. It can go on the C drive because I'm not attaching any other disks, and it can use the default work directory. So click Add, and then click OK. And at this point, you have an option to view the ARM template. Now, I'm going to ask you to copy the ARM template and save it in a notepad, because in the next video, I'm going to show you this really, really cool way of using this template and putting it in an infrastructure provisioning pipeline to spin up as many agents as you want on demand. So do come back for that video. But for now, just close this and click on the Create button. And this will start the provisioning process for a new VM within DevTest Lab. And once the VM is provisioned, it will apply the artifact on top of it. This process can take roughly 10 to 15 minutes. So let it run through, and we'll see when it's ready. All right, so the machine provisioning is complete, and now it's provisioning the artifacts. As you can see, it highlights applying artifacts. If you click on this, it's telling you that it's in the process of installing the agent, and you can click on this to see further details. It usually takes about 5 minutes to complete, so we can let it roll further. All right, so the status updated on the screen. We can see that it's moved from provisioning artifacts to running status. and we get this notification saying that the activity is now complete. You could click on the section here, artifacts, and see a drill down of the details on what has been done with the installation. It seems to have been successful. So if I go back into the build hub, or rather the build pool, I should see the agent registered there. Excellent. So the manual demo agent 1 shows up there. I can check out the capabilities. Since it was a Visual Studio 2017 marketplace image, that's all pre-installed and available for us. So if I go into a specific build, and in this case, what we'll do is we'll go back to the Summit build that we had created. Right, let me, for starters, rename this um, to reflect its real name, which is Summit. So let's call this summit.master. Let's save this. And then let's queue this build, but instead of using the hosted, let's queue this up on DTL. As you can see, it picks up the agent that we've just configured now, and the build's gonna go forward and complete. All right, as you can see, the build execution has successfully completed. So the agent had the right version of Visual Studio and the required frameworks pre-installed. So this just went smooth. All right, so that's all we wanted to show for this video. Join me back in the next video where I will show you how to set up a pipeline to provision your agents using the DevTest Lab ARM template that we copied as part of the provisioning process in this video.